to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show, a real estate investment program. Listen and learn how to use real estate to build wealth and passive income streams for you and your family. We bring you experts every day to discuss and answer your questions on everything from single-family homes all the way up to 600-plus unit apartment complexes. And now, the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. Last Friday, I hit you with a lot of data. I was talking about something that happened to a personal friend of mine with regards to his retirement account. Now, this guy is in his 70s, and essentially what happened to him was he had received a letter from the person, or not necessarily the person, but the entity providing him his retirement payment. I mean, there's another way to describe it. He gets a monthly payment or stipend or whatever you want to call those things. But along with that, he got a letter that said they were going to start decreasing his monthly income by $1,000. And then in the fine print, it basically said, you've got 10 years remaining. So if you live another 10 years, we're not going to send you anything. You will have depleted your account. And I'll tell you what, when I talked with this gentleman on Thursday night, you could tell that, he felt like he had spent at least 3 minutes in the ring with Mike Tyson and could not outrun Mike Tyson. I mean, it was a huge gut blow to his system. Now, along that same lines, I got into an article that was sent to me by a colleague of mine, talking about, well, I'll just give you the article name because it's a Washington Post article. I made the offer to those of you in the audience. If you wanted a copy of the article, send me an email to ascal@luinc.com. That's ascal@luinc.com. And what I would do is I would just forward you the link. I'm not going to put you on any lists or anything like that. I just want to get you a copy of the article because this article is titled, "Millions of Baby Boomers Are Getting Caught in the Country's Broken Retirement System." And it's basically a Washington Post article that spoke to 6 different Americans who've, according to the byline, who have come to the end of their work lives with no financial cushion, no nest egg. The coronavirus pandemic has scrambled many Americans' financial futures, but some baby boomers have found surprising ways to cope with the downturn in the economy. But then when you get into those stories, you start to realize that the people identified in the article are basically back to living hand to mouth. They don't have the ability to go out and do the things that they had done in their working years. So in retirement, they're living on less income, and many of them are just trying to get by. And the gentleman that sent me the article, his name is Dr. Jack Allen. He's become a very good friend of mine because I've known him for a while. He is on the front lines of what we do at Lifestyles Unlimited. Now, this gentleman basically raised his hand. He said, what can I do to help other people to learn how to invest in real estate? And we said, well, what we'd like is we'd love for you to share the good news about what we do at Lifestyles Unlimited. And he said, you know what? I would love to do that. So this guy raised his hand and he said, I want to have an opportunity to talk to people like you in the audience that are interested in finding out more about Lifestyles Unlimited. And I want to share with them a lot of information that is very important to their decision-making component. Now, let me just tell you, Dr. Allen, or hopefully I can call him Jack for the rest of the show. I'll ask him once I get him on. He's got an impressive resume. Okay, this guy, first of all, he has a PhD in ethics and managerial psychology. He's also the recipient of the 2010 Malcolm Baldrige Award. He was a finalist in 2015 for the Ethics in Business Award. He has traveled the country and the world providing speeches to well over 250,000 people and over 800 clients. This guy has basically done some wonderful things in his life. But along that road, he decided that he needed to be invested in real estate. And what we're going to do now is I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to bring Jack on because I want you to hear what Jack has to say. And I want you to understand his rationale for transitioning into real estate investing. Jack, are you there?
I'm here.
Hey, man, I took up most of the first segment, so I apologize for that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of turn the microphone over to you. And what I really want to do is I just want to get to know you. I want the audience to realize that you're just not this big, scary, smart guy out there on the fringe of society. You're actually engaged in doing some incredible work. So tell us about who you are and maybe what your retirement plan was before you got involved with real estate.
Okay. Well, I'll start off by, thank you for the nice introduction. It's clear to me that you've been talking to my wife and not my mom.
You weren't supposed to know that.
Thanks. Yeah, I so much appreciate all that. And as you're talking about that, I thought, gosh, who is he talking about? But, in all seriousness, with this, talking about real estate and why do you want to get into that? I think that the thing that I would just sort of want to push out here for everyone to understand is if you're intimidated by someone who has a fancy resume and a lot of letters behind their name, please don't be. I can guarantee you I have failed more than cheap tires. And in my retirement planning, I followed a map, if you will, that was given to me by people who did not know what the wide world of sports they were talking about. They presented this to me as, this is how America works. You go to school, you work real hard, you get that degree, you get a good job, and they forgot to tell me that then you get laid off and you struggle to make your mortgage payments. Do I hear we got to go to the break?
Yeah, we're getting ready to go to the break. I didn't want to cut you off because you're hitting some great points. But we'll come back from the break, and we're going to dive right into that because you need to hear. Back after this.
Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Now, let's get back to your map to financial freedom.
Welcome back to the show. So if you're just joining the show, what you missed out on was a very lengthy explanation of my guest's background and some other things concerning a common interest that we have, which is helping people like you understand that what society is telling you with regards to how you should go about getting yourself retired, it's not working. It's absolutely not working. And, Dr. Allen, or can I call you Jack? Is it okay to call you Jack?
Please.
Okay,
Please
so Jack basically sent me an article last week, which really, the timing could not have been perfect. It dovetailed on a situation that a friend of mine is going through with his retirement accounts, the fact that they're decaying or decreasing the amount of income that he receives on a monthly basis and soon will phase them out. But as we were going to break, Jack was giving us some of his background as to, what he was doing when it comes to retirement before he found real estate. So I'm going to shut up, Jack. I'm going to let you take over from there, and then we'll go where we need to go.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I was just explaining that what happened to me was I bought the same map that pretty much everybody else buys. It's, you got to work hard, and then you work harder than everybody else, and then you go back to school and you get another degree. And why do you go do that? So you can get a better job. And ended up, I started having a lot of conflicts internally that things that were being said weren't measuring up. If obviously spent a lot of years studying ethics, which is really ethics is just the study of the good life. What does it take? What's right and what's wrong? So anybody tells you they got a degree in ethics, they're really telling you that they know how to make excuses for their own behavior.
Never thought of it that way.
And then you add psychology on that, and that means, I can tell you what's wrong with me, but I'm not going to tell you because I'm making excuses for my own behavior. And my behavior was simply put that I was just going to work harder and stockpile money. And I'm at the same time, I also have a lot of doctoral level stuff in economics. And I start realizing that this is a flipping Ponzi scheme. What you're doing is you're betting that you can put enough money aside that either somebody else is going to come in and bail you out or you're going to die before it's all gone. Well, that's a scam.
Yeah,
There's
it sounds like a scam.
no reality underneath that. And the only way that you can actually provide for yourself and your family is through creating wealth that continues to earn money. All of this hits me about the time I got laid off for the second time in my career. Now, some people are listening to this. They're in the tech industry. They've been laid off 15 times. They know it's just part of the game, which is process that. And we could talk about that for the rest of the hour of what a scam that is. But the basis of this was me realizing that this whole thing that we've created is a scam. And I know I'm using really strong words, but the scam is this. You come to work for us and we'll take care of you. And these companies kept talking about, we're a family. Well, I don't know anybody who fires their family. And who sends their family packing after 20 years of hard work and just says, well, see you later. We've hired somebody younger, which we all know is the common thing. And in the meantime, what we're finding is today the average corporate manager is expected to work 55-plus hours a week, which means you have very little time for family. And if you get into the upper echelons and directors and vice presidents and presidents of corporations, that number of hours expected to work just keeps going up. Every executive that I've ever worked with, their average work week was 65 to 70 hours. When I was an executive, I was working 65, 67 hours a week was very normal for me. And that's unsustainable. But everybody says, but we're going to take care of you. So bottom line is you're going to get a lot of money, but you don't have time to spend it. And then you hope someday maybe, the angels sing and unicorns pop out of your rear end, that you might be able to enjoy your golden years. And here's this other model that we see that is not taught in any public school that I'm aware of. I've talked to over 200,000 people and asked them this question. If anybody learned any of this stuff in school, not a single person has raised their hand ever that they learned basic economics in a public school, grade school situation, basic economics and basic relationship management. And nobody's ever raised their hand and told me, yes, they had. And those are the two most prominent things that add to your success, is understanding how money works and understanding how relationships work. And neither one of those are taught. Well, why is that? I do not know. I've never been able to get the answer. Educators stopped talking to me. I was in academia for a while. Nobody would answer that. And so that was working on me. And I looked around and I said, okay, so what do I know that I could do, that I could learn a lot about? And the first place I went was stock brokerage. And I thought, how hard can it be? And the more I investigated, the more I studied, the more I realized, well, it's really hard, because people who have MBAs from Yale and Harvard and have spent, hours and hours and hours trying to figure out the stock market, they're the ones that are always in charge when it crashes about every 10 years.
Shocker.
So, yeah, the smartest people that have done the most study can't figure out how the market works. So I started talking to my stockbroker, and I find out that my stockbroker makes money when I buy, makes money when I sell, makes money when I don't do anything. And And I realized that the way you make money in stocks is you sell stocks to other people. In other words, you don't really care about your customer. You just care that your customer buys and sells or does nothing, and you just rake in the profit off the top of that. To me, there's a very fundamentally disturbing piece there that there's a piece of that I can't live with. I don't like that. I found the same thing in college and academia. The whole college thing is turned into come and get a degree from us and you're going to get a better job. We're not going to bother to tell you that you're going to walk out of here with $37,000 in debt, and that's going to take you 10 years to repay, and that's average. I know people that $70,000, $80,000 in debt when they walk out. I knew a doctor that had several $100,000 when he walked out of medical school, to the point that he was paying $3,000 a month just to get rid of his student loans. So all of this had me in a lot of turmoil. But I knew one thing that had worked for me that I'd understood for years, and my wife and I had a little rental property. We owned a duplex. And that duplex had made money in good years and made money in bad years, and it continued to be more valuable. It continued to appreciate in value. And the more I looked at it, I thought, well, it's true what my granddad taught me. Everybody's got to have a place to live.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% there. Hey, we're going to break.
That's what
when we come back.
Lifestyle.
Yeah, we're going to find out why Jack bought that duplex. Back after this.
Warning, listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show will change your life. We will teach you how to create wealth and passive income so you can be financially free. And now, back to your host.
Welcome back to the show. So in the last segment, Jack was pretty much laying out a great case for why the retirement system in America is broken. I mean, there's no other way to describe it. It is a flawed system. It is destined to fail. Some people will navigate it successfully. Let me be very clear there. But the key word there was some. I didn't say all people. I said some people. And ironically, for those that don't navigate it very successfully, there is a poison pill waiting for them on the back end. Mm-hmm. Now, Jack, you were mentioning before we went to the break that you had bought a duplex. Tell me why you got that duplex and what has transitioned since the acquisition of that duplex and where you're at now with your real estate investing.
Right. What caused me to buy that was mathematics. You can't get past the math of appreciating assets. And I was doing all this study in the stock market, and I started studying also in areas of motivation and, pertaining to this topic, real estate. And what I started noticing was that the stockbrokers would talk about an 8% return, and we had this property for quite some time. And so I started doing some calculations of where I thought it was from a standpoint of what we were getting cash flow, what we were gaining actually, we didn't have a principal pay down because we owned it outright. And we had cash sitting in it, and we were getting about 15% a year annualized returns already. And we didn't even have leverage working in our favor. So all of that was just very easy for me to say, well, here's what I need to do. I need 10 of these. and if I have 10 of these, I'll make up for more than my salary. I'll just retire now. I can retire at any time I want to. We started looking into how to do that, and one thing and another. Through the course of that, my wife was more ready to retire than I was. She was really getting frustrated with her corporate work environment, and I found Lifestyles. And long story short, we went to the Lifestyles workshop and the 2-day presentation, And within half of the first day of the 2-day seminar, I realized that the math was working and the psychology behind it was working and the ethics of it was working. And by the end of the first day, I completely revised our goals and sat down and said, we can easily retire in 5 years just following what these folks are talking about doing. So we originally, to answer your question, we originally got this duplex thinking, well, here's a way we could put our money to work and it'll pay us back a lot more than it might normally. And it's a lot more stable than the stock market. The stock market's up and down and sideways, and we don't know what it's going to do, and we have no control over it. But the real estate market, we do actually have, we don't have a ton of control over the overall market, but we've got a lot of control over that one property. We've got a lot of control over who is the resident and how, do they actually pay their rent or not. And we have a lot of control over how much we put into that property to make it more valuable or to keep it at the right level for the rest of the properties in the area, if that makes sense. And that led us to understanding, and then we went to lifestyles, and the education came in and led me to understand that, well, really, this is just a very simple process of you're providing something someone needs, which is a clean, safe, functioning home, and you're providing it to someone who's got reputable character, meaning that they actually do have the job they say, they are going to pay their rent on time, and they have a track record of doing that, and then that's going to pay you more than you put into it. So it's very simple. And we started the process of building up our portfolio. We got a couple of more properties, single-family properties, and then realized that we had way too much money sunk into our own personal, our single-family properties. We had way too much that was just sitting in those, and we needed to leverage that, and we learned that from listening to Lifestyles. That enabled us to, that education enabled us to sell those properties and do a 1031 exchange and buy an apartment community and get into multifamily, which when I joined Lifestyle, when my wife and I joined Lifestyles, we did not know anything about, we had zero investment experience in apartments, knew nothing about it. And so within 3 years, I guess it's been 3 years, we bought an apartment community. It's 32 units. So we took our portfolio after I'd already retired, after my wife and I had both already retired. We took our portfolio and basically doubled our net worth and got ourselves into a position where we went from, I think, 6 actively managed units to 34 actively managed units. And now we're in the process of stabilizing that. And once that's stabilized, I can explain what I mean by stabilized if that need be. Once that's stabilized, our monthly income will probably double from where we were at the point when I retired, and Janet and I both retired, to the point where we'll be, or we expect to be, in about, I'm going to say 4 or 5 more months, maybe 4 more months, is about double the income. So will have increased my lifestyle in retirement because I'm doing what Lifestyles told me to do.
Yeah,
I bought a different map.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I was the same way. I was following somebody else's map, and it just got me into trouble. And I've actually, for those folks listening to the show repeatedly, I'm going on brokered record time, but, I actually sold all 3 of those properties. 2 have closed. 1 closes tomorrow. It's got a green light on it, and I'm looking to do the same thing you've done. I'm looking to move that money through a 1031 exchange into a small multifamily apartment community. And for all the reasons that you've done it, and I think that's a testament to Lifestyles Unlimited and the community of like-minded investors. It's an opportunity for a guy like me to watch you do what it is that I need to do so that I can become successful like you. And you're not a dedicated mentor or anything like that. You're just a member like me, but it's the ability to have those relationships, to share those concepts, which I think is just absolutely, absolutely important. What do you think?
Yeah, that's it. What happened to me was I realized that I had a wonderful education, and I'm not pooing on education. I'm a real believer of that. But it's the best investment you'll ever make. The only one I can guarantee you 100% will pay it more than pay for itself is invest in yourself, and that's what an education is. You're investing in yourself. The problem is that in our American system, we have taken invest in yourself to mean any kind of education. Well, while I love everything about social workers, the fact is our system pays a social worker about $35,000-$40,000 a year, and a real estate investment education will pay you about $300,000 a year. So what I wish we could do is I wish we could teach social workers how to invest in real estate so that they could still be social workers and do all of that excellent work that they do that is so critical to the success of our society, but have a good income at the same time.
I agree with you. People like social workers, people like teachers, even folks in law enforcement, man, they just don't earn what they're really worth. And when we come back from the break, I'm going to get into this article with Jack because I want you to hear his viewpoint.
Del Walmsley talks about understanding the system.
Guy told me the other day on the radio, he says, I understand the system. They let the stock market go up to feed our ego to think we're getting somewhere, and then they crash it on us and take it all away. So now we're stuck. He says, I've lived through 2 of those cycles, so he started investing in real estate to get away from the cycle.
Are you ready to break the cycle? Start investing in real estate today. Find out how. Join Lifestyles Unlimited. Start with our live online free workshop. Register at lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. It's time to turn up the volume and fine-tune your passive income plan so you can create the lifestyle you've always wanted.
Welcome back to the show. So, Jack, what I want to do in this segment is I just want to I do want to get into just a dialogue with regards to this Washington Post article that you sent me regarding people that did the things that society said we needed to do. Go to school, get good grades, yada, 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 get good workforce employment. Hopefully that employment transitions to not only good wages, but maybe you get some retirement benefits. And maybe as a part of those retirement benefits, maybe they'll enroll you into a 401k with some matching funds, or, maybe you're super lucky and that organization has one of the remaining pensions, whatever. But I think the takeaway that I received when you sent that article was that the system that we're following is absolutely broken. And the problem is people aren't figuring that out until they get to that point of retirement.
That's it. By the time they see the light, what's the old thing about, I saw the light at the end of a tunnel and it turned out to be the train.
Yeah, the oncoming train. Yeah.
Well, you're dead. I mean, it's so frustrating. And ultimately, what we're really talking about, if there's one thing that we want to push out that Lifestyles is great about pushing out, is it's personal responsibility. And that's what the article, personally, I don't think we spend enough time on that. What the article pulled up for me, there's a lot of stories about different people, and some of them are humorous, and some of them just make you shake your head and want to scream, and some of them make you want to do a lot of other things. But they interview a lot of people, and some of them took no responsibility for their welfare at all, and they just want to let somebody else pay for it. Well, the somebody else is you and me, and that's just a sad reality. Those folks are always going to be part of a society, and no matter how you structure the government entity, there's always going to be that percentage of the population that they're just fine with living off of somebody else's money. And there's not much we can do about that. I'm not going to worry about that too much. Personally, if they're disabled, if they've got a real serious problem that they cannot work, I want to give to that. If they just are lazy and they just don't want to, I'm probably like most of the other people listening on this show. I don't want to give any money to them. I want them to, stand up and go to work. The problem we've got into is it's the vast majority who do go to work every day for 30, 40 years, 50 years, every day, in and out, get up at 6, go to bed at, 10, whatever. And now they're discovering too late that what they thought was going to take care of them, which is the process they were sold, that you're going to get Social Security and you're going to get this 401k payout. And like you said, there's a few people that are still on pensions, although those are just very rare nowadays. But there's still a few. I guess there's a lot, maybe. But I don't know very many people on a pension. And that was going to be enough. And what's happening is we're finding out that then they're getting to be 70, 72 years old. They're retiring, and it's not enough. And they can't figure out what happened. And you go back, and what happened is you were sold a lie. You were told that if you just keep putting your money into that 401k, we're going to take that for you. We're going to invest it in the stock market. And really what it is we're going to wink at you and hope that it doesn't go down when you need it. In other words, it's a Ponzi scheme. There's enough other money coming in from other sources into the market to keep it propped up. And if you understand how the market works, when people start pulling a bunch of money out, it drops, and the thing can drop like a stone. So, anecdotally, I have a friend who was going to retire in 2010, and because the stock market crashed, he couldn't. His planned retirement account was suddenly worth half as much, so he couldn't retire then. So here he is in 2020. He thought, well, surely after all of the gains, I can retire now. He told me last couple of weeks ago, he said, I still can't retire. And the reason he can't is while the stock market has been going up, because his plan was geared toward a retirement horizon that was 10 years away, his gains have been limited. So he was it's that old diversity thing that we hear about. And what was happening to him was diversification was diversification, and he knew nothing about what was investing in, and consequently, it just stayed level. So his retirement income is now about 30 or 40. He would have to decrease his standard of living by about 30 to 40% by his estimate. So he'd have to sell his house and buy a small house and end up and not do anything. No vacations, go down to just the way he was describing it just sounded awful. And all I could think of is if he had taken the exact same money and put it into rental properties, either single family or multifamily or passive investment income, which he was in a position he could have done passive real estate investment, I just looked at his numbers, and he would have 3 times what he needs in the last 10 years. And just in that 10 years. I can't tell you that's what 2030 is going to look like. I can't go 10 years in the future, but I'm saying if he had done that from 2010 to 2020, he would now be sitting on 3 times the monthly income he needs to maintain his lifestyle. So, yeah, he'd be selling his house still so he could get a better one or do whatever he wanted to do. It's my point. He could go live on a boat somewhere, I guess, and that's what I think we're missing here is this system tells us put it in a pile and then start taking off the pile, and you hope you don't live long. You hope you don't outlive your money. Whereas the investment model that I learned and that is working for me right now is create a system that just keeps making money. It's just building wealth the whole time. So, when my days are done, let's put it this way, when my days are done, my kids are going to be a whole lot better off with what legacy I leave behind than I was with what my dad left behind, because my dad didn't leave anything behind. He just drained the account.
Yeah, I think my dad left me a couple grand, and that kind of covered the associated expenses of having his funeral. And and that's definitely not a place I want to be. Regarding your friend, I was thinking about that 2010 retirement plan that he had, and the fact that 2008 hit, and as we all know, just the markets all just went bananas. But had he retired, let's say in 2007, he probably would have been fat, dumb, and happy, thinking everything is good to go, only to have the markets crash in 2008. And I'm wondering what his lifestyle would have been like. I mean, he probably would have had to go back to work, because he would have watched that account balance just significantly reduce. And then imagine where he's at there. He's already left the workforce. Now he's got to penetrate that workforce.
Well, and I that's a great point. I guarantee you there are people out there that's exactly what happened. They were, everything looked great. They retire, and they've got a nest egg of, let's say it's $1.5 million, and it looks like it's going to be plenty to last me for another 20, 25 years until I'm dead. And then all of a sudden they wake up after 2 months of the market making a strong correction, and now they've got $700,000.
Yeah,
and $700,000 sounds like a ton of money, doesn't it? I mean, it's just like a boatload of money.
Crazy money.
Add it up. Start doing the math, and find out if you're taking a little bit out, and it's not as much as you think. I had a financial planner that was I was at an event not too long ago, before COVID, and I was speaking and he was speaking, and he was telling people how much they need to have in order to retire. And, because that's the question everybody asks, how much do you need? And this guy's telling people they need $5 to $6 million. And I'm looking at him,
he might be right.
And I'm saying, well, that's interesting, because only a few years ago you guys were saying that you needed about $2 million. I mean, like 5 years ago. And he turned a little red, and with market uncertainties and things like that. And so at the same conversation, I pointed out what it would look like, how much would it cost you, and what would it look like to have a $5 million real estate portfolio that was paying you $15,000 a month. And everyone in the audience suddenly realizes that you could do that with about $600,000 or $700,000.
Yeah, absolutely. I did a little math there, because you mentioned, trying to live off of $700,000, and, the conventional wisdom is pull 4% out per year. That would only allow for a $28,000 income. Bingo. Jack, I got to go because we're up against the break. And for those of you out there that want to get started, go to freeworkshoplivestream.com.
The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.